They didn't see your value until you were gone. They didn't appreciate your presence until it became your absence. And now they're drowning in regret, replaying every moment they took you for granted. Because the truth is, some people don't know what they have until it's no longer theirs to lose. You gave them chances. You gave them patience. You gave them pieces of yourself that you'll never get back. But they were too blind, too comfortable, too convinced you'd always be there. Until one day, you weren't. And that's when the regret hit them like a wave they never saw coming. Here are the 8 things people regret after losing youth. The realizations that haunt them when it is already too late. First, they regret not listening when you spoke. You told them how you felt. You expressed your needs, your boundaries, your pain, but they brushed it off, minimized it, or worse, ignored it completely. They thought your words were just noise, something to endure until you stopped talking. But now that you're gone, your words echo in their mind with clarity they never gave them before. They replay the conversations they half-listened. They remember the moments you tried to be heard, and they realize you weren't being dramatic. You weren't being needy. You were simply asking to be valued, and they failed you. That regret cuts deep, because they know they can't unhear your silence now. Second, they regret taking your effort for granted. You showed up, consistently. You remembered the little things. You checked in. You made plans. You put energy into the connection, even when you were exhausted. And they just existed in your orbit, receiving without reciprocating. They thought your effort was endless, that you'd always be the one to reach out, the one to try, the one to care more. But effort without appreciation is a flame that eventually burns out. And now that you've stopped trying, they feel the cold. They reach for their phone and realize you're not texting first anymore. They wait for you to make plans and realize you're not coming. And suddenly, they understand. Your effort wasn't ordinary. It was rare, and they let it slip through their fingers like it meant nothing. Third, they regret the way they made you feel small. Every dismissive comment, every time they made you question your worth, every moment they made you feel like you were too much or not enough. They did it so casually, so carelessly, never realizing the weight those moments carried for you. But now that you're gone, they see it. They see how they dimmed your light because they couldn't handle how brightly you shined. They see how they made you shrink to make themselves feel bigger, and the guilt eats at them. Because you deserve to be celebrated, not tolerated. You deserve to be uplifted, not diminished. And they realize now they didn't lose you because you weren't enough. They lost you because they made you feel that way, and that's a regret they'll carry forever. Fourth, they regret not protecting what you had. They let other people interfere. They let outside opinions poison what was between you. They allowed disrespect to go unchecked. They prioritized everyone else's comfort over your peace, and you felt it, the slow erosion of safety, the quiet message that you weren't their priority. You stayed longer than you should have, hoping they'd wake up and fight for you, but they didn't. And now that you're gone, they see how they failed to protect something precious. They see how they let the wrong people have too much influence. They see how they chose everything and everyone except you. And now they're surrounded by those same people, feeling emptier than ever, wishing they had chosen differently. Wishing they had chosen you. Fifth, they regret the version of themselves that they became around you. Deep down, they know they weren't their best self with you. They were reactive, defensive, selfish, closed off. They gave you their worst and expected you to stay for their potential. But you're not a rehabilitation center for emotionally unavailable people. You're not a training ground for someone to learn how to love properly. You were a person who deserved to be loved well from the start. And now that you're gone, they've started to grow. They've started to heal. They've started to become the person you needed them to be. But it's too late. You're not there to witness it. And that's the cruelest irony. They're finally ready, and you're finally done. They regret that they couldn't be this version of themselves when it mattered. When you were still there, still hoping, still believing in them. Sixth, they regret losing your loyalty. You were the kind of person who stayed through the mess, through the mistakes, through the harsh seasons who stayed. You didn't run at the first sign of difficulty. You didn't give up when things got complicated. You were loyal to a fault, and they knew it. They knew you'd always be there, so they stopped trying to keep you. They stopped earning your loyalty because they thought it was guaranteed. But loyalty isn't unconditional when it's being abused. And one day, you reached your limit. You walked away, and they were blindsided because they never thought you actually would. Now they're surrounded by people who come and go, who leave at the first inconvenience, who don't fight for them the way you did. And they realize your loyalty was a gift they'll never find again. Seventh, they regret not seeing you clearly. They saw a version of you that fit their narrative of the friend who'd always be available, the partner who'd always forgive, the person who'd always put them first. But they never really saw you, the dreams you carried, the pain you hid, the strength it took for you to stay as long as you did. They never asked the deeper questions. They never looked beyond their own needs. And now that you're gone, they're haunted by the person they never took the time to know. They scroll through old photos and see a stranger, someone they lived beside but never truly saw. They hear stories about you from others and realize there were entire parts of you they never accessed. And it destroys them because they didn't lose a generic presence in their life. They lost you, the real you, and they never even knew you were there. Eighth, they regret believing you'd always come back. Every other time you did, you came back after the arguments. You came back after the hurt. You came back after they disappointed you. So they assumed this time would be the same. They thought your love was a revolving door they could walk out, and you'd still be there when they decided to return. But you can only come back to the same place so many times before you realize it's not home anymore. This time, when you left, you didn't leave the door open. You didn't leave breadcrumbs. You didn't leave hope. You left completely, and they waited for you to come back, confident you would. But days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. And slowly, painfully, they realized you're not coming back. This is it. And that finality is the regret that breaks them, because they gambled on your return and lost everything. Here's the truth. They're learning too late. You weren't temporary. You weren't replaceable. You weren't practice for someone better. You were the real thing, and they treated you like a backup plan. Now they're living with the consequences of their choices, replaying every moment they could have chosen differently. But regret doesn't bring you back, and missing you doesn't undo the way they lost you. Some lessons are only learned in loss. Some people only realize what they had when it's gone. And sometimes, the biggest regret isn't losing someone, it's realizing you were the reason they left. Your absence is teaching them what your presence never could. If this spoke to you, comment the number that hit you hardest, and subscribe to Mindforge Havenware. Your worth is never up for debate, and walking away is always an option.